Hi, I'm Nikolai, aka 56Miner, and today we'll be unboxing our August Basics box. This mixed media box has a lot to it. We'll talk about value, combining different mediums, and I'll share some tips and tricks that I picked up when working with the supplies. Let's get into it. Our first item is going to be a brand new product from ConeChalk, and it's going to be the high viscosity fluid graphite. This is a super interesting medium that allows you to use graphite more like a watercolor. Opening the packaging, you can see right out of the bottle, the fluid graphite has the viscosity of a loose putty. This is great because it allows you to dilute it into a traditional watercolor consistency, or you can lay down thick, dark layers by using it straight out of the bottle. Before we can demonstrate that, let's grab some other materials from our box. For our brush this month, we have the Chisel Blender from Princeton. This Velvet Touch brush is great for thick or thin lines. It's a great tool and works really well with a variety of mediums. For our surface this month, we have a custom Britannia pad from Fineliners. This textureless hot press pad is great for transitions and creating subtle gradients. Because it's a heavy weight in stock, we don't have to worry too much about warping, and the paper can take a large amount of water, which is great for mixed media work. Taking a dry brush and a little bit of that fluid graphite, we can create a textured effect on that surface of the pad. So if you want something with a little bit more grit, you can definitely create that. And because we're using a blender brush, we can smooth out that pigment and create value transitions. It's a good technique to know in case you want to roughen up some areas of your piece and add some texture elements. By adding a little bit more water, we can get those smooth values, which reminds us so much of a watercolor. Just like with traditional graphite, this medium is going to be very value dependent. Value being how light or dark an area is. By washing out my brush with water, I can create a value that's only slightly darker than our paper, and by using just the fluid graphite, I can create our darkest value, which is going to be closer to a black. This month, try creating a value scale. A value scale can be any number of values as long as each are distinct enough to be separated. Here you can see I'm creating a 7-step value scale, including the white of the paper. This is a great way to familiarize yourself with the medium and allows you to kind of work on those observational skills. Once you have a solid understanding of value, it's a lot easier to render form. So here I'm going to paint a candlestick using our medium. I'm going to start with the lightest wash, that almost barely darker than a paper. That way I can get my shapes established, and then I'll go in and add darker areas with darker value. It's important to note that I'm letting each layer dry before going back in. This will allow you to get kind of the crispest edges as you work with these different values. And as you mix those values, I would suggest going a little bit lighter than you expected because you're building on an already darkened area. Value is one of those art fundamentals that can take some time to learn, but it really makes a huge difference in the final product. Our next items are going to be 2 Fineliners from Zebra Sarasa in Spring Green and Silver. Fineliners are a great medium that'll offer a lot of control and really emphasize the line. These fine tip pens offer a consistent line with no line weight variance and are great for outlines, doodle work, or adding detail to a piece. Hatching or cross-hatching are great techniques for Fineliners, and you can make impact marks to give a little bit of movement to a piece. This next technique can take a lot of time, but it does offer a really rewarding look. So stippling is when you create the value range, but you use it by packing an area with small dots. The closer the dots are together, the darker an area will look. It takes a long time to do a piece like this, but it's really rewarding. We included the silver fineliner in this month's box to go with our graphite paste. Try combining the two to add a little bit more detail and structured lines. For warm-up this month, I wanted to go over the concept of blind contour drawing. This is when you draw the lines and the shape of a figure without taking your eyes off of it. It can be a little bit tricky, but it's great to increase hand-eye coordination and can really help you kind of get comfortable in thinking in shape and line. By no means will your drawing come out perfect, and that's not really what this is about. It's about increasing your hand-eye coordination, and that takes some time to build up. Take your time when you do this exercise. Here this footage has been sped up, so take all the time you need. The main focus of this is keeping your eye contact on your subject, and you can do anything. It can be a kettle, a bookcase, whatever you want. The important part is that you give the exercise a shot. Our next item is going to be a bottle of gouache from Talons in deep green. I love gouache because it's so versatile, but it will crack if you put on layers too thick. Just a cork of the medium to be aware of. Right out of the bottle, you'll get these nice thick, opaque layers that are almost like acrylic paint. Adding water will give us a little bit more of a watercolor effect. Gouache is kind of like the happy medium between acrylic and watercolor. I'll take that transparent gouache and sketch out a segment of a branch, using the edge of the blender brush to get those thin lines. Flat or squared brushes, in my opinion, offer a lot of versatility, as you can get those kind of angles and thin lines that a round brush would have a little bit more difficult of a time achieving. With the gouache fully dry, I'll go in and outline some of the leaves and the stems, which will allow us to get a little bit more detail and differentiation between different areas. I love how the spring green fineliner interacts with the deep green gouache. It gives us just enough color difference that they stand out from each other, but not so much that they compete. Sometimes when you do lines with too dark of a color, you can really flatten out and detract from a piece. When working with gouache, I typically suggest going in with multiple thin layers than trying to lay down a thick layer. It takes a bit more time, but it offers you a more consistent color and more control when working with your values. For our background element, I'm going to take a little bit of that ConeChalk fluid graphite and mix it with the gouache. This will create a very desaturated green color. Using a guide in our silver fineliner, I'll go in and add a circle for the background element and fill it in with that gouache and graphite paste mixture. This will help to make those greens look even more vibrant. To separate our branch even further from the background, I'll go in and add some wavy lines into that interior of the circle, darkening up some of those edges on the leaves just to help them stand out a bit more. Let's grab the last item in our box, the cone or chalk pencil in white, to add some highlights. This pencil will work best on areas with gouache, as the gouache dries to kind of a matte, textured finish. It can also be used to kind of blend out those values of the ConeChalk graphite paste. And with that, our piece is complete. Hope you enjoyed the video, learned a few things, and if you post your work online, make sure you use #SketchBoxAugust. We love seeing what y'all create each month, and I'll see you next month.